Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports as we kick off a new week, as we kick off the start to the look ahead, as we preview now what will be the upcoming offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Yeah, offseason, finally here. Late to the party. That's what you want if you're obviously the Philadelphia Eagles. It creates some problems, but you'd rather be the last team standing and deal with those issues than the opposite. Some of these teams have been ready to go and raring to go for weeks and weeks and weeks because they stink. So, good problem to have, as they say. But yeah, behind the eight ball because everybody else has already started that off-season process.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Johnny Mack. John, we got a great show planned for you. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning. All the great people I met down on Friday at the parade. What a day it was. We have a tremendous city, a beautiful city, a lot of great people in this city. So if I met you, man, did I appreciate meeting you. I love all you guys. Thank you all so much for what a great day we had on Friday. And we'll recap that a little bit more. We got a great show planned. I want to welcome and thank everybody. Johnny Mack, John McMullen, the host of the Birds 365, the number one Eagles beat reporter in the country, right here on this show. Make sure you guys follow him at JF McMullen, and I'm your host, Zander Krause. Give me a follow on X at Real Zander, on Instagram at Zander Krause Show. So thank you guys all for checking in on here. Johnny Mack, one of the first things I want to do today, especially before we get Jeff Kerr, is I want to look at the offseason checklist. What things are the most pressing for the Philadelphia Eagles when you go into this offseason? Obviously, you got a couple free agents. You're going to have the NFL draft coming up. When you think about that question off the top of your head, where do you go in terms of an off-season checklist? Every team has a list of things they want to accomplish in the offseason. When you're a Super Bowl champion and you have one of the youngest rosters in the NFL, it looks a little different for the Eagles. But what do you think about when you think about off-season checklists for this team or off-season priority list as we go in there?
Well, I don't think anything is that desperate that you have to sort of block it off and say, well, we got to fix this. I mean, they are the Super Bowl champions. I think, to be honest, I was thinking about it over the weekend. I think, they're ahead of half of these teams in the NFL just by the way they do business. I really believe that. So, they're ahead of the game for the most part, ahead of the curve. They have been for a number of years. And that's why they've had this sustained, lengthy period of success. It's because of how they run their operation. But then from that standpoint, obviously, the part that is out of your hands is when you are the Super Bowl champions, when you make a big run in the playoffs, everybody naturally wants to break off a piece of that success. So you've already seen it with the coaching staff and Kellen Moore. That's number one. Now Kellen Moore's interviewing Doug Nussmeier. No surprise there to be offensive coordinator. I would expect to lose Doug Nussmeier as well. Those two have been together for years and years and years through Dallas and the Chargers, Philadelphia. And remember, Doug has a lot of, even without Kellen Moore, Doug has a lot of connections with the Saints. That's the team that drafted him way back when, in the mid-'90s when he was a player. He's a great quarterback at Idaho, by the way, for those who don't know. And was a backup there for a number of years. And his son plays at LSU, which is right down the road. One of the best college quarterbacks in the country. He's going to return and for his second season as the starter at LSU. So, to me, it's too natural not to happen. But Christian Parker's getting an interview to be the defensive coordinator. That's a little bit of a worry because you can't block it with the Eagles. From everything I hear from around the league, Brandon Staley, though, is the leader, and I think he's ultimately going to get the job. So I think maybe the Eagles luck out in that instance. But you see, from Christian Parker's standpoint, he's 33, I think, 33 years old, very young coach. Just to get his name out there, to be in those coordinator searches, that's a guy who, unfortunately, you're probably going to lose at some point, but you are probably going to get another year out of it.
33 years old, Johnny Mack. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. Because Vic, I mean, you don't want to go away from Vic. Trust me on that. So, it's part of being a good team. People want to break off, as I said, a little bit of that success, and then the free agent, the big four, as I've called them, not going in order, but Zack Baun, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Mekhi Becton. Those are the guys who are probably, that probably if they want to go to free agency, the new league year starts on March 12th, the tampering period March 10th, I believe. If they want to take it that far, they're going to get overpaid. That's what happens when you're on a good team and you perform in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Forget about it. You're getting overpaid. So, talk to a lot of guys. And then I throw in some others like Oren Burks, who I think is very important considering the Kobe Dean and his injury. Can you keep Oren Burks? Probably not after the way he played. Isaiah Rodgers, you still got a decision to make on Darius Slay. So a lot of things have to be worked out from a roster standpoint. But those are the most notable ones. And even Kenny Gainwell, who I think a lot, really good backup running back, is probably going to, want to play a little bit more.
Right.
Probably
gone, right?
I would think so. He'd get a bigger opportunity somewhere else. So big fan. By the way, Nick Sirianni loves Kenny Gainwell. Jalen Hurts loves Kenny Gainwell.
I have a video. I think it was you sent me from the locker room after the Super Bowl, Johnny Mac, with Howie Roseman giving Kenny Gainwell
he's a very popular player with the organization. So you never know. But I would think at his age, he would want more of an opportunity to play. And obviously with Saquon Barkley, that's not going to happen here. So, a lot of questions on the roster, certainly.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, you think about those 4 free agents, and we've talked about this before, but man, the discourse on all of them is building up across the across Eagle world. Who's the priority there? I mean, I've seen so many different takes on who the priority is going to be, and when you think about what Howie's philosophy has typically been with trenches and stuff like that, does that tip the scales at all? Is Milton Williams a 3rd-round draft pick of Howie? Is he going to be more of a priority than Baun? How do you see those 4 playing out? Is Mekhi Becton going to be a priority? If you think about Becton, I know we always say Jeff Stoutland can replace someone on the offensive line, but Mekhi Becton's 25 years old, John. You'd have Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, and Jordan Mailata for the foreseeable future, and you'd have 4 out of 5, pinned down on your offensive line if you got a deal done with Mekhi Becton. How do you see those 4 free agents playing out? How do you see Howie prioritizing each of them?
Well, I think it's interesting because when you talk about priority, it depends on people's definition. Like, I think Zack Baun is the number 1 priority for Howie Roseman. However, the guy who's getting the most money is Milton Williams. So, it depends on how people want to look at it. I think Howie understands coming off the season that Zack Baun had, he's got to keep him. So from that standpoint, I think that's the most important goal for him. And then, Milton is a player that very similar to Javon Hargrave, only even more so a little bit on steroids because he won the Super Bowl and he played well on the stage of the Super Bowl. He's at a position that NFL teams will pay significantly. Everything, the perfect storm of $20+ million. And I was talking to Milton at Clean Out Day. I've gotten pretty close to Milton over the years he's been here. This is a guy who probably could have signed an extension for $9-10 million a year. And He said, man, Fletcher's leaving. I got a chance to play. I'm going to bet on myself. And he won.
Yeah,
he won.
He's look. You can tell as a player he's put the work in because he really performs now.
Yeah, well, he was always a solid player, but I think people didn't recognize it because there wasn't a ton of playing time.
Yeah. Taking
Um,
that jump though, John, is not easy. Not everybody's able to make that
no,
jump. Even, look at Bryce Huff. I mean, not to
and
criticize him, but not everybody's capable of going into a bigger
no,
role.
you gotta do
Yeah.
it. And there's a lot of things you could get hurt. There's a lot. This is a very violent sport. There and the Eagles have, and that's been one of the secrets to their success is extending guys early, getting them to take less money, even though at the time it might not seem like less money, you know. And I'm probably lowballing him. The Eagles probably would have went to 14, 15, something like that. But even so, to bet on himself and hit the home run that he did, he's gonna make well over $20 million per year average annual value.
That's a big number for Milton,
Yeah.
man. It's a big number.
And you have to think about it. Remember, Howie always talks about he thinks about this team in 3-year increments. So, you got to think about paying Jalen Carter down the road. He's gonna set the market for defensive tackles. So whomever is number one at the time, Jalen Carter is up. He's passing him. As long as he doesn't get hurt and all the usual.
What's that number going to be when that comes? 30 million plus?
Exactly. That's what you're talking about. So can you account for that much money for two at the same position? Well, they did it a receiver, so it's not impossible. Nobody manipulates the salary cap better than the Eagles. So you never say never, but it's going to be tough to keep Milton Williams.
Yeah, and you also have Jordan Davis, as people point out in the chat, him coming up on an extension. So we'll see what they end up doing there. A lot of interesting discussions there, John. How do you see the Mekhi Becton part with a 25-year-old guy who seems to love the city of Philadelphia, seems to love playing here, seems to love Jeff Stoutland. What's he going to make?
And I'll add, seems to love playing guard. I asked him flat out, does he consider excuse me, does he consider himself a guard or a tackle now? Because he obviously was the 11th pick in the draft to be a left tackle, looks like a left tackle. That's what everyone wanted him to be and thought he'd be. And you get paid more money if you're a left tackle than if you're a right guard, as he's playing with the Eagles. And he said he'd rather play basically guard. Said it's easier for him. You're out there on an island like Lane and Jordan. And he really liked playing inside. So I think that helps. You mentioned he came here to work with Jeff Stoutland and worked out beyond anyone's expectations. That you got that part of it. He's become very close, as most of the offensive linemen are on this team, and they've embraced him. You've seen the emotion he's shown, not only after the Super Bowl, but when they clinched the NFC East, he was welling up on the sidelines. Because he'd always been part of that. Talk about crappy organizations. Let's be honest. He was part of the Jets, and you're not used to things like that. So it all hit him very hard. He's made some money because he was a first round pick. So he's not, like Milton as a third round pick. This is his first time.
Highly coveted guy already.
Yeah. So all of that works in the Eagles, plus his knee injury. Now that's a give and take. He doesn't like talking about it. He fought through it all season. Is that a degenerative condition? I don't know. Only the Eagles doctors and the Jets doctors would know that, but that might hold his price down.
Where do you see his price, John? 10 to 15? Somewhere in
there? I couldn't. That's my whole point. I can't pinpoint because of the injury. Like how many people? Like, do you see him as a tackle? Do you want him as a tackle? Do you want him as a guard? He is the toughest one to gauge from a money standpoint. And if it gets up to the 15-20 range, I don't see how the Eagles keep him. I don't think
it's going to get that high.
If it stays in the 8 to 10, 12 range, they could probably find a way. And for those, I know a lot of people say, well, you got Tyler Steen. Tyler Steen ate Mekhi Becton, man. When it comes to the running part of it, the historic running part of it, and the Saquon's season,
right?
When it comes to the offensive line, the real difference, we all know Lane and Jordan are great, and Landon is great, and Cam Jurgens is a really good player. But when it came just to the pure physicality, Mekhi Becton's the one who put it over the top.
Yeah, he's a bully. Yeah,
he is a monster. And so many, you can go back and watch the highlights of Saquon's long runs. So many of them are Mekhi Becton just pancaking somebody.
Give me 4 years, $50 million for Mekhi Becton.
Well, that's the thing about Mekhi. Because of the knee, you might not even have to go 4 years. It might be less than that, because people might be cautious to go that high. He's really tough to pin down. But if I could, I'd run it back with him as long as I can. As long as I can.
I agree with you. What do you think Zack Baun's going to get here in free agency? Because that's a number that I've seen all over the map. I mean, I've seen 20 million. I've seen as low as 8 to 10 million still for a 1 year.
No way 8 to 10.
No way 8 to 10. I mean, Spot Track, I don't really put much stock in that, but they have them, I think, at 11 or 12 market value. What do you see for Zack Baun?
More than that.
I think it's 15. Is it 15, the sweet spot?
I think it might be. The thing about Zach is our people, he's still very young.
Yeah, who's the dumb team that's going to push it up to 20 million?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the top paid linebackers, is he going to get as much as Fred Warner? Is he going to get as much as Roquan Smith? Probably not, because he's only done it for 1 year. So I think Roquan is right at 25 years, 100 million.
Right.
And then Warner's underneath that 5 years, 95 or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. Twiz just put it in the chat. Roquan's 20 years, 100, or 20 million a year, 5 years, 100. Fred Warner is 19 mil, 5 years, 95.2 million.
Yeah, I think he lands below them, but above Tremaine Edmonds, who is next.
So 18.5 you're looking at.
That to me is where he should be. I mean, that dude was, oh man.
He was incredible.
He was a playmaking machine from week 1 through the Super Bowl. It never let up.
It never let up. I remember our post-game show after week 1, John. And you're like, I'm going to go ahead and say he's not going to be able to duplicate this all year. And every single one of us, including everybody in the chat, agreed with you. Where, I mean, how is this guy?
Who could predict Zack Baun? Who could predict Zack?
Nah, nobody predicted Zack Baun. Nobody.
I mean, he was the best linebacker in football. The best linebacker in football. I mean, Vic's back. What changes? He's super athletic. He's super smart. He knows the defense now, backwards and forward. I mean, he's going to get a lot of money. Hopefully Howie can get him to come in at 15, 16. Because, he understands the other side of it. He played 4 years. Nobody gave him a chance. He didn't even know what he was. I shouldn't. I mean, Vic told us the story. He in training camp, he was like, when am I going to get the rush to passer? Like, he wanted to be an edge rusher.
Right. That's probably what he thought he was here for.
Yeah. And Vic's like, don't worry about it.
Pretty incredible stuff there. Johnny Mac, good stuff. We're going to get to my man Jeff Kerr coming up here on Birds 365. I do want to get to one chat. Alexander Harris says, all I'm saying is Quinyon was definitely sauced at the parade. Yes, he was. Johnny Mac, what were your takeaways from the parade, brother?
Well, I think Nolan was the most sauced.
Dude, Nolan, John, he came
right. He stole a baby.
He came right in. That was right in front of us. I was working the camera right in front of us, and Nolan picks up the baby right in front of us. It was unbelievable.
Did he just forget he had the baby?
I don't know, man. And then you can see the video. We posted up the video last night of I don't know what they did. They must have had like a buddy system. I don't know who the other guy was with him. That was with Nolan Smith, and he was wearing like a Just Win Baby shirt, but it didn't look like a player. And he was the guy who was kind of like watching Nolan everywhere he went. And to get the baby off his shoulders, he's handing him a bottle of champagne. Like, here, you give me the baby, I'll give you the bottle of champagne.
We had a real life hostage situation.
Yeah, we posted it up on JAKIB Sports. It was hilarious. But now Howie gets hit with a beer, a couple great speeches from the players. It was a cool day down in the city for those who were down there.
Yeah, but tone down with the beers, man. I joked about that.
Yeah, I
can't be hurling full beers at the GM's head.
Yeah, that's insane. But no, yeah, crazy day. But it was a good day, man. For those down in Philly, by the way, I want to thank a couple people real quick before we get to Jeff Kerr. I want to thank my man Joe Whipp. Joe Whipp, I'm not sure if you're in the chat right now or if you're listening, but I can't thank you enough, Johnny Mac. Joe's one of our great supporters here on JAKIB Sports, and he was down there, John, at I want to say 6:30 in the morning. We were down there at 5. Joe Whipp shows up, and he went right to work. He started helping us set up, helping Jerry, who was the owner of the truck, the flatbed truck that we broadcasted from. So, Joe, thank you so much, my man. That was really cool of you, Joe. Thank you. I see you in the chat, man. Appreciate you very much. Flexing and Stepping, another one of our great members who was down there all day with us. Thank you so much, Flex. Akbar helped us broke down our whole setup at the end. So big thanks to Akbar and all of the great people that I met. Callie Baby was in there. Mike Berghorst was in there. Arthur Humler. I'm not going to remember everybody's name off the top of my head right now, but Slagger, you're the one guy I didn't talk to, but I saw you in the crowd. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you, brother, but I can't thank all you guys enough. It was really cool, John. We have a lot of great people that listen to our program, man, and it was great meeting some of them down there at the parade.
Yeah, and that day was for the fans, and that's what it was about. And, it's not and I mentioned to everybody on Fridays, it's not a day for the beat reporters. I thought, we don't get media access, so it's not really for us, but it is for the fans to celebrate, and what is a heck of an accomplishment. So glad everybody enjoyed it. Glad everybody stayed safe for the most part. Couple incidents, but nothing too terrible except for maybe the stolen baby. I'm joking, Nolan.
No,
but, the real life hostage situation. But yeah,
John, I'm not sure if you caught any of our coverage, man. We were smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, well,
broad next to City Hall.
Yeah, I was doing the show with you in the morning. We couldn't link up with you.
I know, and then I got it figured out after our Birds 365 where it didn't work out. But
yeah, it was.
Man, people were saying, "How the hell did you get this spot?" It was amazing. There's Mike Berghorst. Mike, great meeting you, my man. I appreciate it. But yeah, it was a great day, man. A really awesome day. Let me give you guys a quick live read, and then we're going to get to Jeff Kerr.